All right, everyone, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Kenneth Brogas. I'm a very happy host because I'm 100%. I was not 100% last week, so I'm going to make things right. It's a super early show this week. I'm doing it on Thursday. It actually is Thursday, August 28th. Kind of crazy. The reason I'm doing this show on Thursday, way before the weekend even gets here, is because this weekend I will be in Pennsylvania at the Sound Path to Freedom Music Festival. I'll be there front to back. Okay, I'll be there, and of course live. You can get tickets. I will be one of the headliners at the Arnold's Family Fun Center. It's going to be a great event. Anyway, I'm talking about Roger Jackson and him severely beating a professional wrestler during a live wrestling event, beating him in the ring. Roger Jackson, of course, is not a wrestler. He is a 25-year-old streamer and an MMA fighter. He's the son of Rampage Jackson, former world champion of multiple organizations, including the UFC. Most people know who Rampage is. Now we all know who his son is. I've already mentioned Soundpath, so there are a few reasons for why I'm covering this story before I head out to Pennsylvania for the Soundpath Music Festival. Reason number one for this is it only happens once every so often that you will see a brutal and violent act such as this that's going to be broadcast in front of the whole world to look at. Violence happens every day. It's usually something that happens in front of your eyes in real life. It just happens in front of you. Or when we're talking about a video of it, it's usually something you need to go to actually look for in order to find the footage. Now this, because it was streamed live on Kick, and also because of who was involved, it was a professional wrestler and the son of a UFC champion, and there's a crossover there. So it becomes the story for anyone that has anything to do with combat sports. Anyone who trains boxing, anybody who watches UFC, there's a huge crossover here. So the clip of this assault goes viral from there and gets even bigger and bigger. So as far as that intersection of how violent it is and how many people get to see it, it's honestly similar to something like the Kennedy assassination and the World Trade Center attacks on September 11th as far as how big of an event this is. Now, that might sound a little bit crazy, right? But I start with that to highlight how important I think this is. The fact that it was documented and recorded to this degree is what we usually don't get, because we get all the background here. It was all recorded. It was all live streamed by Roger Jackson's cameraman, his friend. It seems actually he wasn't so much of his friend. There was a video I just saw about an hour ago that Raja is blaming his camera. He said, "How could you? Why was he recording this? He was not supposed to keep recording this beating." Anyway, just the fact that we saw such a brutal attack and so many people did see it is one of the reasons I'm covering it. The second reason is there's serious opportunity here. There's an opportunity to connect with each other, to talk, and actually get people to listen about some of these societal issues, simply because we watch something like this, and after seeing this, we show who we are. We show each other's true colors. We show our own true colors. This penetrates all of the social identities, all of the masks, all of the formalities, the agendas that everybody has, all the little egos and big egos that we all operate with in order to live the way we do in modern society. All that goes by the wayside when we all look at something like this. It goes to the most inner and primal. We see what is truly important, the value of human life itself, and how upsetting it is and horrible it is when a person is violated and destroyed in such a way, and you see it happening before your eyes. You're helpless to stop it. It brings up the injustice of a senseless act of violence. So I do call it an opportunity. Obviously not for clicks or to get new fans. It's not what I'm concerned about, but it is an opportunity to convey to people what I care about the most, to change this world, to actually fucking change the world. And here we get this rare glimpse into the reality of everyday violence where actually we all care about it. So I do this show every week pointing out exactly that this kind of violence, what we're about to watch, and we're all watching together, this thing exactly happens. It's simmering beneath the surface every day. And when given the chance, it's going to bubble over. And there may be no one to stop it unless we take action now. This is the whole point. So those are the reasons. For those reasons, I'll be another one to the tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 channels that pick this story up. I have a perspective that I think is much different. That's why I'm attacking it. Psychology and philosophy, as always, so let's get right into that. And really, I want to start by playing the video. I'm just going to play it because that's how violence happens in real life. You don't get a backstory, it happens suddenly and brutally, and it's just there. You don't get the backstory until later. So, I'm going to play this, and you're going to see what happens. So that's what happened. In one sense, it's very straightforward what happens, what we saw even without the backstory. Attempted murder is the phrase that has been going around. I'm certainly not going to start out arguing against it. There was enough damage done in that short period of time to kill someone. Um, Now, at the moment of making this video, the victim who you saw on the ground, Psycho Stu, his real name I believe is Stuart Smith, but I'm not even going to use his real name. I'll use his wrestling name as it is. At the end of the day, I want to show the utmost respect to him and his family. He's awake from current reports where he took a picture smiling with all his friends, so it seems like he's going to be all right after he was being in an induced coma for several days. I send my sympathy out to the family first of all, of course him as well, but most of all his loved ones. That's who had to watch it. All the children who had to watch it. I saw a picture of him in the hospital looking all swollen and unconscious, and I've been that guy in the hospital, swollen and unconscious. I wasn't the one who was hurt, it was my family who was hurt. So to my mom who will watch this, I really, my utmost sympathy is to you and moms like you who have to watch people do this. Usually bad decisions, usually senseless bullshit that makes this stuff go off, and we'll talk about the causes, right? Yeah, and all of the victims of attacks such as this. That's who this video is for. That's what my sympathy is for. Now, of course, we're gonna break down what led up to this, and all the footage that I showed, including what you just saw, it's from his own stream. It's from Raja Jackson's own stream. So his crime was recorded from his own side. Everyone has covered this now, what I'm about to show, because all you have to do is rewind the stream for about an hour and a half from that moment, and you have this incident going off in the parking lot entry area. And this all happens within the first 5 minutes of Raja Jackson getting there. So it happens very quickly. From the situation beginning to the violent attack at the end is no longer than an hour and a half. And I'm going to be playing some of this on the side as I'm talking, because there is so much to say about this. I can't fit it all in one episode, because since then there are things that I want to talk about that I don't have the time to. Statements made by people. The wrestler that you saw that pulled Raja off, right? The guy who basically saved Stu's life, Stu's friend, who intervened in time to prevent more damage. Likely saving his life, who knows, right? But likely. Then also there was a statement made by the guy who brought Raja Jackson there in the first place, a wrestler who we're going to see soon. You may be seeing him by now, maybe not. But this is why I want to zoom out and really go from the beginning of the stream, just to capture a bit more than the other channels and get that full perspective. We're going to start with him talking to his stream before even coming out, right? As soon as he gets to the place, to the general area, about 2 blocks away. So, first important note here as to causes when we're talking about what makes this happen. As he's talking to, after just starting the stream, he mentions not being able to stream. He mentions feeling fucked up, in his words, and throwing up recently. And this is referring to him getting hurt in sparring just a few days ago. So he's likely days removed from a concussion. That's the first issue here. That's the first issue. The second issue, as we see him now walking to the door, I don't know Raja personally, but to me, he seems uncomfortable. I don't expect the guy who is who he is, who looks like him, who is his age, I don't expect him to be uncomfortable going into an event like this. And I think that he is out of his comfort zone in this situation. I think he doesn't know what to expect too much. I think he's kind of going into it dark. And look, I understand people are writing off Raja Jackson as a human being after seeing what he was capable of, his assault, right? That's kind of why I start with it as well. So it's not that I'm finding excuses. But these things matter to me as far as telling the whole story, regardless of how I would feel about him as a person, which, I'll really get into that towards the end. But another layer to this is the culture of professional wrestling. Because in professional wrestling, everything is organized, but it's loosely organized. There's a culture. The boys still kind of, so maybe not as much in the modern WWE, right? Things have been gotten corporate, a little bit washed as far as the way that business is done, and it makes things safer. It also makes things probably a worse fit final product. There's no making bones about it. Wrestling is totally fallen off of a cliff. Wrestling is actually dead because of the WWE, and not only that, but the social media era and the way it's been blown up and over popularized and exposed by the internet. Like the allure, the mystique of wrestling is gone. Wrestling is dead. But in the way that wrestling used to be, the boys kind of run the locker room, and it's actually amazing that these shows go off and the show doesn't stop. The show happens. It's amazing that it goes off, that the coordination, that it all works out, and the final product came out on a professional level. The fact that it goes off as planned is amazing, and it takes a lot of talent because of what it takes just to put on live events, which I'm finding out being one of the organizers for Soundpath, and not even being that heavily involved, but how much work it is just to put on a live event, and then to do it like every few days, and having all of these intricate storylines and dealing with live people, thousands of them, new venues, arenas. It is amazing. Now this is the underground indie level, so these are not your main professionals. This organization is the Knox Pro Wrestling Academy. They're putting on a show for about 50 people in Los Angeles. Now they were affiliated with the WWE, so they're not just nobody, they're somewhat affiliated. I see they have Rikishi, who's a wrestling legend. Rikishi is one of, I don't know if you want to say an organizer, or he's in an official capacity, definitely a promotional capacity, right? He's one of the big shots that are involved on a high level. But this is a relatively low level of professional wrestling organization, which leads to issue number 3. What I was saying with issue number 2, I don't know if I made it that clear, is just that even the people who are there wrestling, that there's not such a strict breakdown of what's going to happen at what time. So Raja is kind of being brought there. He said somebody told him, hey, show up here, there's going to be a wrestling show and we'll work something out. And he comes up to the door, and you see that, and that brings me to issue number 3. When he does go to the door, he gets held up at the door. Bouncer doesn't want to let him in. So this guy just stood in front of the camera and told his audience that he's coming out to support a wrestling organization that his friend is involved in, that he has been invited to help promote, right? And then when he goes to the door to go inside, he doesn't really know what to expect, what to say. He gets shut down at the door and checked at the door with the camera on him. So I'm going to point out several moments in this day, in this evening, where Raja Jackson was disrespected and when he felt insulted. This was the first of them. It's not the last. So he calls for his friend to get him inside. This is AJ Mana here. He is coordinating this whole VIP experience that Raja was brought for. So immediately, he gets him inside, finally says, oh, you motherfucker, you didn't give me a ticket. And so makes a joke about him and his wrestling tights. So you're looking like a stripper. Everything is all good. Laughing, and they immediately go back to where the boys are, the wrestlers. So they take Raja to meet the promoter and some of the guys. And so it's pleasantries and laughs. And as soon, like in the first 30 seconds that he starts talking to 2 of the people that AJ brought him to, our victim who got beat in the ring, Psycho Stu now, he comes up behind Raja, pretty close to him. He comes up pretty close to him, unannounced, and just stares him down. And he's just standing there staring him down. And then he injects himself into the conversation at this point. He's the one who injects himself, and he hits Raja with this empty can. Now, when he's doing this, he put his other hand out. So when he's throwing this can, he could have hit his hand with the can. And wrestlers will often do this. They often do this. Wrestlers are known to be cautious and really care to minimize head trauma of the people they're working with. You know, maybe not The Rock with Mick Foley with the chair shots, and maybe not always, right? But this is what I expected him to do. But it seems like Stu didn't really do that. He kind of did a regular like working punch, which means you're gonna make it look real, but you're not actually gonna hurt him. But it seems like Stu didn't do that. It seems like he really did hit him with the can. Now, the can was empty, sure. So it just looks like he crushed the can on his head. Now, I've crushed a can on my head. It's not that big of a deal, right? It wouldn't hurt that much. It didn't hurt that much. But with this decision, with this behavior that Psycho Stu engaged in, you got two big problems here now. One is Raja, in a split second, he's taken out of laughing and meeting with people. He cares about how he comes across. He cares about meeting these people, right? This is a friend of his. So he cares about this conversation. And in a second, he goes from laughing and smiling with them to having this guy get physical with him. And everything about it, the staring him down leading up to it, the way he just approached him, and then hitting him on the head so quickly, everything about it looks like he's punking him out. It looks like he's being publicly embarrassed. And that's a big issue. That would be a big issue for anybody. I mean, not just Raja Jackson. The other big issue is Raja is coming off of head trauma. So he's not feeling 100%. He's feeling sick. So to the boys, it may not be a big deal. And you see that. That nobody in the background even turns around with the sound of that can. Like, that's normal. No big deal, right? But to someone who's, he's not dressed for a freaking wrestling match. He's coming there in like a promotional, friendly capacity. And at the same time he's doing this, he's nursing a potential concussion. He actually said he's going to go to the doctor on Monday. Somebody said in the stream, said something about, hey, go get an MRI. And he said, yeah, I'll go see someone on Monday. And that's literally the next day. This happens August 24th, which is Sunday. So I think it was Saturday night, Sunday morning. So this is very concerning for him on a level of personal health. Him getting hit in the head, you don't think that's something he thinks about? And he's also a fighter. He's an aspiring MMA fighter, His record is 0-1 apparently. So I don't know how. It doesn't matter what level, what his record is or what level he's on. He's an aspiring athlete, and you're going to have somebody hit you in the head after you're concussed. Like, that's a big violation. Really, there's a whole other issue here, and that is that Stu seems to be actually pretty drunk. Alcohol, I think, is definitely a factor here, clearly. And very often alcohol is the catalyst for people to cross personal boundaries, as Stu did here. And this is kind of where I'm going to get controversial with this video, I guess. I'm going to get controversial on both sides. If I haven't lost you yet and you're listening to me, I'm going to be pretty fair, but I'm probably going to piss you off at some point, because I got my perspective, right? And I'm going to be real about it. I'm not preaching to anybody. It's just what I've learned in life up to this point, So it's been pointed out that Psycho Stu is a war veteran. And you can find a video of him talking about being traumatized from the war, and that wrestling has allowed him to readjust to society. And before I even get into Stu as a person, I heard his friend Douglas Mallow talking about him, how sweet of a guy he is, that Stu is such a great guy. And Doug, I really, really like him. I heard him talking about this, not only for jumping in and stopping the attack, but I like him for speaking out against the promotion and everyone involved. Really not just burying Raja, but the people that he knows that were involved in this promotion, that the promotion tried to cover it up, the way he was set up for this. So I believe him that Stu is actually a sweet guy, potentially a great guy to his friends and family with a big heart. definitely. I think that's the case with many military members, but it's not an accident to me that the same guy that went to kill people for the United States Armed Forces is the same guy who pushed his way into somebody else's business and put their hands on somebody completely unprovoked. Now, I know that, and everyone is saying this, and he gets a pass for this. I know that Stu thought that Raja was a wrestler. I know he apologized. He said, "Oh man, I thought you were a worker. I thought you were a wrestler. That's why you hit him with the can, right?" He thought it was part of a stunt they were doing, an angle. The point is, the first person who had his rights violated that evening in this scenario, the first person who had the rights violated was Raja Jackson. That kind of gets lost in the decision he made later, right? But I want to talk about Stu a little bit, and I forgot to include this, so it may be a little bit random. But I had this thought that, wrestling helped him readjust to civilian life. Well, judging by Stu's behavior, I don't think he's readjusted into civilian life. He readjusted into a mini level of what people do in the military, which is violate other people's rights, go on to other people's countries. And I'm not saying those other guys are good people too. They might just be, birds of a feather, the people on this side and the other side. But that's the world they go into. They go in there just like that, standing in front of them, and bam, and then they deal with it later. That's what the militaries of not just the United States, but militaries of all countries, that's what they do. That's the world they live in. That's not civilian life. That's not the world I live in. But this happens every day in the world, and it's very often. It's not just done by military and police, but often it is done by military and police. And I'm not just talking overseas, but here as well. And I'm not just talking about cops that are on duty, but off-duty cops, security, or people who just go around their life feeling like it's their role to police situations, to get involved and start putting hands on people and start pointing them and telling them what to do, because they think that that's the time for somebody to take over, like to get a grip on things. There are a bunch of people like that. They could have a good heart, they could be sweet, but they're the type of people, if you find yourself on the wrong side of a situation, they're the ones who pull a gun on you or pull out some pepper spray, and your physical safety is at their mercy, because they think that they're entitled or authorized to be like a cop. They think they're in the moral right, and they start getting into people's business. Now, sometimes they're right? Sometimes when you intervene in a guy's beating up his woman, then the guy does need to intervene. But they overstep very, very often. And I'm not saying everyone is right, this side is right or this side is wrong, but this is a big problem in society. Just as much as it is a problem for people to just be piece of shit criminals and general fucks and to be beating up their women and doing other types of violence, that does require somebody to come up there with a gun or a bat and say, hey, get the fuck off of get out of here. That is necessary as well. Look, I don't want to attack Stu's character, but that same part of him that made him initiate an altercation with someone completely unplanned, it wasn't scripted at all, that same way that he treated Raja, it's just like someone who has a lack of respect for personal boundaries and is all too comfortable to resort to unprovoked violence. What I'm trying to say is that same thing that makes him a soldier and go into that for whatever kind of an idea, whatever made him go and be part of the military, that's the kind of thing that got him in the shit here. And it's not just a hit. Then they go face to face, right? And Stu puts his hands around Raja's neck and shoulders like this, all while smiling. Maven even called it a shit-eating grin. I liked what Maven had to say about it. Maven's a former professional wrestler at the WWE level, at the highest level. And he saw what I saw as well. There's very clear disrespect here from Stu. And wrestlers know about this primarily. It's why a lot of the people who have been most critical of Stu have been the former wrestlers, most notably Mark Henry. Mark Henry's getting totally, buried for what he had to say about it, because he puts most of the responsibility on Stu. And I get why people are upset, but yeah, I expected Mark Henry to. Yeah, Mark Henry plays no games. He's a man's man when it comes to things like that. Not that I'm saying I completely agree with him. Um, I guess I shouldn't rush it. If I offend somebody, I offend somebody. It is what it is. Likely people won't even find this video because there's like 10,000 videos about Raja Jackson. I can't even find the freaking video because everybody's got their own reaction to it. Thumbnails, big yellow letters. I actually kind of hate it. The way the world is that everybody has to give their opinion now. Something happens and I'm one of them, so I guess it is what it is. But wrestlers know, because wrestling is that type of a culture. It's a little bit like prison, where if you get punked out or disrespected, that's a really big deal. You cannot take that. But afterwards, he sticks out his hand to shake Raja's hand and mend things and smooth things over. Stu's going like this. But he does that like right away, and even this is aggressive. He doesn't indicate any kind of understanding or regret. If I've ever seen a disrespectful apology, it's a disrespectful handshake. It just is. Look at the positioning of his hand. Look at the posture of him. I know I already can picture some of the people watching this laughing at me because I have a very quick trigger for these things, for what I perceive to be disrespectful. But I'm right here. This is true. He's being disrespectful to him. And then he attempts it immediately after. It's like if you smack the vending machine after trying to get your drink, so you're trying to get your drink and you hit the vending machine and then click the button again. Like that's the level of respect that Raj is getting here. It's like, oh, you didn't shake my hand? What about now? What about now? So after that happens, they explain to Stu that he was in the wrong here, and then he gets it. Then he understands. He sits down. He apologizes, just like a drunk. Very compassionate, very regretful. All the sympathy in the world after the damage is done. Way too late. That's how it goes. So after that happens, that's when the idea is conceived that, hey, we're going to let Raja get his payback. That he's going to run out into the ring when Stu is having his match. And Raja is going to hit his ass. And then everything will be all good. You won't have to be upset. We're going to turn a negative into a positive, and we'll have a good show and get some publicity out of it. That's the idea. So everybody says, yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I'm good. Oh, yeah, no problem. We can do that. Everything's all good, right? A great solution in theory. But it's the solution of a bunch of older guys drinking together. And that's exactly what it was. It sounds great in theory, but it's actually a very lazy and unprofessional solution. It seems like it would make sense, and it could have made sense, but you're not dealing with... it is like when you throw darts and you hope to hit it. Like, let's throw darts at a board and see if this sticks. It would have been nice, but it didn't go as planned. So then Raja, after this, he leaves with his friend AJ to go inside the building to watch the show. So Raja's friend, AJ Mana, he assures him, hey, it's all good, man. You run out during his match, you tag his shit, give him that fucking receipt, and if anybody got a problem with that, I'll run out myself. Basically saying, go there, hit his ass, I'll back you up. And for those words, AJ Mana has been called an accessory to attempted murder. All sorts of things, actually. He's been getting buried for this as well. But at this point, from what we've seen up to this point, what is understood and agreed to by everyone there, what everybody thinks that Raja understands, and what I think that Raja, at this point, if you asked him this, what he would say, like, what is he going to do at this point? What is he saying to you? What is AJ saying to you? What is understood is one hard punch or kick, maybe two. That is what they're talking about, because that was one of the things that was used as a defense for Raja. It's like, oh well, they said, they basically told him to go get him back. Like, we're gonna let you run in and hit him. So that is like the plausible deniability. That's what I would say in court for sure. But for us, just talking about what is happening, what's being understood is one hard punch or kick, maybe two. That is a fair response for what was done to Raja. For the hit with a can, and on top of all the disrespect, that's like a fair response to the violation. And the reason I can say it definitively, even though that's not written in any law code, And it's also the reason that all of the people throughout the whole world who spoke about this, all of them have said that they would have totally understood if Raja would have just punched them right then and there. They would have no problem. There would be no outrage. And that's because when people think about justice, they think about justice in terms of natural law, whether they know it or not. It's common. We can call it common sense, but really what it is natural law. It's what we all understood as being the right moral behaviors. It's the rules of morality and human interaction. We all know that what Raja actually did was wrong, but if what he would have just hit him once or twice, no one would claim that kind of a moral. There would be no moral outrage. No one would call for him to go to jail. So, in a natural law sense, he would have been justified there. In a wrestling sense also, because a receipt in wrestling terms means one hard shot. Because the original offense for what, the reason you have a receipt in wrestling is when, obviously in wrestling they're cooperating to make devastating moves look devastating, but not actually be devastating as far as how much damage and pain they cause. But obviously sometimes, you don't do it right and you actually will lay into somebody and fucking kick them in the face for real. So that it is understood, in order to make things right and not have problems, if you do that, you're going to get your receipt, which means you're going to get some kind of a punch or a kick, something like that is going to happen to you. One shot, usually. There's a reciprocal nature to it. It's one for one. So AJ Mana has been gotten buried for his role here, most notably by Doug, who knows him. Obviously, they're both wrestlers for this organization, so they know each other. But I gotta give it to AJ, man. I heard a short bit of his response to it all, because he went on a podcast and talked about it, and it changed my view of him. At first, I thought that AJ was a snake and a piece of shit and a bitch. I would have said 100%. And I'm not saying he's an angel now, but after hearing him, I have a lot of respect for the way that he defended himself. I always say that I'm not concerned about being wrongly accused of anything. I don't care about false accusations, because I know that the way that I defend myself, people are going to know that I didn't do that. If somebody falsely accuses me of something, there's a way to defend yourself. And that's the way he had defended himself, and I believe him. Where AJ really went wrong, though, and it's really AJ, the promoter, and Stu that are to blame. Where they went wrong is they allowed a complete, untrained outsider to participate in their craft. It's like me, and I got this many years in construction, and somebody's above me, and I let them, they're holding some heavy machinery, and this person's never done it before, and they drop it on my head and kill me. I should never allow that person to participate in something dangerous when they don't have the right training. There's a level of trust that you need to have somebody in certain situations. So you're going into to fix something and they have to hold up something heavy. You have to trust that person that he's not going to let it go and crush your hand. So this is what they did here. That is the sin that they are guilty in committing. AJ and the promoter and Stu. Everybody else that was involved on a secondary level, they're on the secondary level. But they let this outsider participate in their craft, which is a sacred craft. And people might roll their eyes at that. They don't get wrestling. I don't care. Well, whatever. These men, they entrust their physical health and life to each other to cooperate to pull off a bunch of dangerous moves in live action in a flow and a rhythm that is really like music. It's like art. It is an actual dance, but it's like done on a tightrope. So I have a lot of respect for that. And for that, for letting a complete outsider get into that and do that, who carries the most blame is Mr. Stu, Psycho Stu. He valued his health and safety the least of anyone there. And that is exactly what he did when he went into the military as well. And that's the whole problem. He trusted his life to someone who didn't give a fuck about him in the end. Guys, it all came full circle. And really, it's not to be insulting, but holy shit, this is exactly it. It made so much more sense to me when I found out that he's a veteran. He turned off his survival instinct for an idea, trusting that Raja would look out for him, and he didn't. He had no reason to look out for him. Just like the government doesn't look out for you when you go out and then you wonder why the VA sucks. They don't care about you. They sent you to do their work, and they think of you as much lower They think of you as low or as a criminal. I guess I'm talking to military members from the perspective of, you know, government. They look at you as your dogs. But at this point in the ring, the attack, when he gets picked up and he was hanging upside down because Raja had him like this over his shoulder. At that point, Stu didn't think the danger was high enough at that point for him to escape, because he could have grabbed onto his leg, he could have been thrashing around and moving. He didn't do any of that. He just stood there in that moment because he was letting Raja do that to him. He didn't see the potential for him to get slammed on the back of his head so hard that he will fall unconscious. Stu didn't see the danger. And that's what happens most of all when you're drunk. You don't perceive the danger. All the drunk driving accidents, I mean, I would know how many of them have I had. This is it. You don't see the danger. It happens when you're drunk. It also happens when you're stupid. And I think that describes most people who put on a government uniform. Get as offended as you like, right? But that's all I will say about anyone outside of Raja Jackson now. Now we're gonna really dig into Raja now. So he gets his front row seat, and then he sits down to watch the show. He gets set, and he goes on his phone. For about an hour, he sat there watching the show, but mostly he was on his phone, answering some calls, reading the chat, whatever he was doing. Clearly, he was reading the chat. And really, that is what made this bad thing much worse, is because after this attack, he wasn't watching and cooling off, he was stewing. Really, he was much cooler and more calm being in that physical altercation with Stu. He was in a much safer, everybody was much safer then, actually. But sitting here, this is where it became dangerous. And I'm not going to show it here because I don't have the time, but after he leaves the building after this attack, he said this. He's like, people are always calling me a bitch and shit. Like I'm soft and shit. People are always playing with him and saying he's soft. And clearly that's what happened as he was getting closer to that moment of running in. He was saying to the chat, he said, hey, I said I could hit him for real. I can hit him until they pull him off. Until they pull me off. He said, I don't even know what I'm going to do to him, but they said I could hit him. He's like, watch what I do to this guy. I'm going to fuck him up. And when they said that they can hit him until he gets pulled off, I believe that. That makes sense to me. Because I'm sure that Stu can sell a good punch. He can get hit for real. He can sell a good punch, fall on the ground, and then cover up for a few seconds. This guy's former military. He's a big guy. And up against the MMA fighter or not, I'm sure he was confident in his ability to withstand something like that. I'm sure Stu thought he was perfectly fine, but there are two big problems with that and why things went wrong. One is the slam that knocked him unconscious. He didn't expect that. Because obviously you lose consciousness, you can no longer protect yourself, and he did not expect that. That's one. And number two big problem is that there was clearly no specific plan to intervene and to stop the assault. There was no plan to do it. Doug did it. And Doug correctly blamed all those fucking people that let it happen. It was really bad planning. And Doug actually said that somebody told him, hey, watch over this match, just in case something happens. So that was the extent of the planning. But he wasn't even by the ring. It was just after his match. So he just had a match. And he was somewhere in the back. And that's why it took him so long. He had to get through the crowd to get there. So that was the really bad partial planning, if you can call it that. But it was partially planned, and I think that Stu expected it to happen when it did. Because he turned around, and he was turned around when it happened and looking at the guy that he was in the ring with. And I'm pretty sure Stu is the one that gave the signal. Stu told the ref to give the signal to send Raja in. You could see there was a guy in a suit on the outside of the ring trying to interfere with the ref. And then Stu actually calls him. He's like, ref. And then he's telling him something. And when wrestlers tell a referee something, it has to do with communicating information to them that they're supposed to communicate, usually to backstage through a headpiece. And you could actually see after he grabbed the ref, it seems like something fell out. So you could see the ref fiddling with his earpiece. I think that's what I saw. Regardless, right at that moment, Raja, clearly someone gives him a signal because he goes from nothing to going in. And he said to his chat, it's like, hey, I'm just waiting until they tell me to go in. So that happens clearly. He goes in. And then right when he goes in, the thing that no one is talking about The song that plays right when Raja comes in to the ring, that was the signal. Clearly, it was coordinated. It doesn't even seem like it was coming through the PA system, because that makes sense, because it was short notice. They didn't add it to the, the DJ music for the show, but somebody played it. And I'm not joking when I say this. I think this song has more to do with it than anything of what ended up happening. This song, out of all the songs you could play, I Don't Like by Chief Keef. To people that don't know, I was a teenager when the song came out, like in 2012, I believe. So how old was I? 16. Yeah, I knew what was going on. Do you know how many murders that song has set off? Not just in this city, but throughout the country at this point. Likely in Europe and England at this point. That early 2010s music from Chicago, it had a very specific energy to it. Especially this one, the kind of the one that set it all off. So I don't think at that point Raja planned to the extent that he would take this. But what happened is he found himself in the middle of the ring, and then Stu turns around. So the eyes of that man that half an hour ago was smashing that can on his head, he's face to face with him with that song playing in the background. And at some point, Raja chose violence. And it just fucking happens in a split second. I don't really know how to explain it. I know it makes me cringe. I know it's cringe when people say, oh yeah, that could have been me. I had so many street fights, and yeah, I could be just like Raja. I know it's lame to do that. I'm going to do it anyway, because I haven't been in many street fights. I've only been in a few. I've been in, honestly, less than 5, like 4 or 5 fights. And one time I did make the choice that I went too far with somebody. And I used to listen to that same freaking music at that time. And I called myself a savage as well. So when I saw this, there's a part of me that thinks, oh yeah, that could have been me that did what Raja did. But as I think about it more, it's not true. I wouldn't. I would never have done what he did. I don't have it in me to do what Raja Jackson does in this circumstance. When I did it, in my case, the guy wasn't laying down flat on the ground. He was still moving. He was still protecting his head. But that does happen fast, and there is a point at which it's no longer necessary, but you're still kicking and punching. But still, if someone was out the way Stu was, he's out, I would never continue to hit someone like that. Unless there was a natural law reason for that person to die, and then it's a different story. And I think that there is a time for someone to get beaten like that. If someone rapes your daughter, you should beat them to death. I think everybody agrees with that. Most of all the women would say, hell yeah. This wasn't that, though. And what made Raja keep hitting him is a mix of fear and ego. That's why he kept hitting that guy. He made up his mind, first of all, that he was not going to stop until he gets pulled off. Because he wants to prove to everyone that he's not to be messed with. And at some point, even when he did get pulled off, he shook it off. He wanted to keep hitting him. It's like a bloodlust at that point. He was thinking to himself what people would see and think, and everything that people have said about him in the past. And most importantly, he's actually thinking in that point about what he would think about himself. It's his own estimation of himself, his own self-esteem. That's what Raja Jackson is thinking about that at that point. At that point, he's not even thinking about the people in this chat that called him a bitch. He's thinking about all those moments he's thought about himself and who he really is. And to Raja at that point, Stu is not a human life, but at that point he's only a symbol that's standing in the way between him and being treated the way he wants to be treated, the way he wishes that life treated him. And that is partially why I punched and kicked that guy longer than I needed to. Basically because he didn't fall down. Because I had it in my head that he was supposed to fall down when I hit him. If I couldn't knock him out or knock him down at least, I felt like I was weak. Because I was bigger than that guy. And I got the first shot in unprovoked. So I should have won that. And I mean, I did, but I expected it to go down a certain way. It was like a hand-to-hand weed money exchange by like an eighth of weed or something. And I just hit him out of nowhere. And it is because I didn't want to be soft. That is the thing I was thinking. But after you knock someone out and you keep hitting them, if you do that, you're forfeiting your right to remain unharmed. there's a decision made at that point. You make the decision to step outside of the civilized world and you go into the world where will is king. You go into the world where whatever happens, happens. And that's the decision that every soldier makes before going to war. Uh, every criminal before he commits a crime. They're living in the law of the jungle now. And at that point, when Roger chose that, if Doug would have come in with a baseball bat and cracked his head open and killed him in the ring, Doug would have been perfectly justified to do that. Because no matter what happened originally with that violation, this was not the proper response for that. At that point, he's deciding to keep hitting a guy who's knocked out, so he is basically taking himself out of civilized life. And at that point, kind of like the way we all agree you have to do with a rabid wild animal who's on a rampage attacking your children, what are you going to do to them? You're going to put them down. So at that point, he has made the decision to be in a position where he has to be put down like an animal. And I know people have gotten mad at, especially MMA Guru, for calling Roger Jackson a dumb animal. I know the racial connotations and histories of saying that, but really having nothing to do with the fact that Raja happens to be black. He's making the choice to live in the animal jungle world, and everyone who does it knows when they're doing it. But it's amazing that almost universally, everyone who has talked about this, I'm sure people who have voted Democrat, Republican, people who are from different religions, different countries, we can all, if you ask them, we can narrow down the exact point at which Raja gave up his right to live a normal life. At the third punch. We all say that the slam is when it went too far, but you could understand the first punch. Second one is you're really going too far, but everybody, we give the benefit of the doubt. And if you throw that third punch, then you're going too far, and all bets are off now. But Raja threw about 20, so it's very clear what happened. And so when people say that he should spend most of his life in jail now, I don't like that solution, but I see what you're saying. The ultimate takeaway is we're living alongside people who are a split second away from making that choice to live in the jungle and not live in civilization. But me personally, I haven't crossed Raja off as a human being because I know what I've come back from. So, but still, it's not... I'm not saying he should be protected. I'm not saying he should be absolved. I'm not even saying don't throw him in jail. I'm more concerned at this point about what made him do it and how his case reflects the youth and the next generation coming up. This guy's 4 years younger than me, so he's not really that much younger than me, but I've seen this in people much younger than him, and it's how much of a burden someone's reputation is to them. What the social media standing and the reputation means. What people will think of you, the oppression of this online crowd. That's the tyranny that young people deal with today, and they deal with that long before they ever paid their first taxes. The long before they experience theft and coercion on a societal level, that they're experiencing it like that. Raja crashed out because people would think that he's soft. That's the bottom line. Well, actually, he is soft, but not because of that. Raja, you're soft because you're a streamer. It's not because he didn't stand up for himself. I thought actually he handled himself really well in that parking lot. Zero fear, zero weakness. You got nothing to be ashamed of there. But clearly with him, the fear and weakness is internal. This is the problem. People are incredulous as to the origins of Raja's insecurity. All of this stuff about what's going on. How could he have done this? It's because of how flimsy and fake life is, honestly. But it's also no accident that this happens to the son of a famous fighter. And Rampage Jackson, he streams all the time, too. This stupid streaming bullshit, It's not that... I have no problem with you making money. I got no problem with the streaming profession in principle. I just think it's pathetic personally. Just the way... even though I'm doing the same thing as streaming now, right? It's not that it's about money, but... I'm also sharing recordings of myself because I think that I'm offering something that is valuable to others. But you're streaming yourself just going to a wrestling event, and honestly, what makes you, like, what are they showing about their personality that's so amazing? Like, this Raja and Rampage, same thing. I just think they're pathetic at that point, what they're showing. I don't think what I'm saying is pathetic. I think it's fucking pretty valuable, actually. But again, and I don't even blame his dad that much. So what if he streams? So what if he's Rampage Jackson? You expect Rampage Jackson to be the best father in America and be a total role model for children everywhere? Why? Why do people expect this? This is another thing that's kind of it. The outrage kind of turns me off a little bit. All the outrage at Raja and at Rampage is people think they're so morally righteous. But as far as Rampage being some kind of a great role model, I don't expect him to be. And I also don't think it's fair to call this guy a failure as a father, as a lot of people have. And the whole thing, it actually kind of makes me want to cry. Because Raja and Stu, they're at the opposite ends of the spectrum in every conceivable way. Very literally, they look opposites. But they both experience that same kind of real pain and suffering inside of themselves they have. For different reasons, but it's really the same reason. All because of the conventions of this toxic world. And what they played out the role that they felt like they were pushed into. The influence of the crowd. And what they think is right. Based on what the world says they should do in that moment, right? Nobody actually wants to go into the military. They do what the world says, what they think that my family wants from me. It's really a warning sign to us about the world that we created, man. That's what this is. Why do you think there are so many young kids who just don't give a damn about nothing? They'll steal a car at 11 years old. They'll shoot somebody in a drive-by. And this term that we use now, crashing out. What is crashing out? It's really giving up on life. And a lot of kids make the choice to do this younger and younger. With Raja raining down those punches, that's suicide what he's doing in that moment. There's only annihilation at that point. He wasn't only destroying Stu, he was destroying himself. That's all he could see at that point. Raja's beatdown of this guy is showing us what these kids are feeling on a daily basis. These are the real conversations. The crazy thing is, as horrific as it is, there's a place for what he did. There is a place for what Raja did. There's a reason that human beings have the capacity to be able to do what he did in that moment. But like superhuman strength and drive, the stamina that it takes to do that. And the bottom line is, that kind of a beating, that's what should be done to the individuals who are socially engineering society to be the way it is. There are people who are creating the PTSD, creating the mental illness, and creating just the lack of respect and the lack of emotional healthy behavior that is causing people, both victims and attackers, to be attacking each other. The people who design these social media interfaces to be like slot machines at a casino, right? The people who give the orders for soldiers to go massacre villages and burn towns. There are people like that in the world. We don't usually know their names. We know a few of them. We know Peter Thiel. We know Larry Ellison. We know people like that. Will I get banned from YouTube if I say they should get the Raja Jackson treatment? I don't know, but we've got a long way to get there. I think a better use of our time is to connect with the kids who are coming up, and we send them out to look into this behemoth of a dark world standing in front of them that they have to go into, and they got nobody to help them make sense of it, because us, the generation that's supposed to lead them, we've got our own problems. We can't connect with these kids. What can you tell Raja Jackson? Do you even speak his language? Do you get what he's going through? This is the issue, and I'm just saying with these kids, let's not cross them out in general. That's all I have to say about that. I'm going to end with a song. I'm going to play Skits remixed by Lord Finesse. I listened to this like 15, 17 years ago. Skits is the acronym for it's like school kids caught up in the system. Just talking about, at that point, this is 1994, so this is like 30 years ago, what was happening at that point. And he's talking about exactly what's going on now. It's like kids used to have a childhood, and they used to be innocent, but now they're thinking about money. They're thinking about, being gangsters out here. They're making money doing this. They want to be adults. They want to school bitches and smoke blunts, and you can't tell them nothing, because they'll pop you. They'll shoot you. They don't give a damn about nothing. And they actually got Big L on the hook. Rest in peace, Big L, man. One of the best, technically one of the best technical rappers ever. I think he died at 25 as well, actually. So, yeah, man. This is the reality of kids nowadays. So check it out. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you in like 10 days plus, right? I don't know when I'll upload this yet. I may wait till the weekend to upload it, but I will see you on the first show of September. Is going to be episode 144. It's going to be the biggest episode so far, because that is my number, man. 144. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and hopefully see you at Soundpath to Freedom 25. Bye.
It's all real world life. Kids at the tribe. Back in the days I was living swell, see. I was riding bikes, roller skating and playing skelsies. But nowadays shit is different. Little kids be riffing, the motherfuckers won't listen. Instead of shooting tops, they shoot Glocks. They point them at cops, and that's the way they get props. Yo, they do what they wanna. Fuck a 9 to 5, they making G's on the corner. Material things is what they wanna scoop, they can't get shit like that. Working for no summer youth, they got clients, they living like giants. They got the whole drug shit to a science. They got Jews and beepers, $100 sneakers, Lexus coupes, windows down, booming the speakers. They got bitches and favors, probably fucking your neighbor. Come on, they got shit under control like the mayor. Man, you see the news today, so how you gonna tell these little kids that school's the way? Yo, it ain't about IQ. Some of these kids are making more than doctors and didn't finish high school. Teenagers are caught up in the system, and God forbid if you front on them or try to diss them. They got everything from knives to shotguns, and they'll put 2 in your chest and lounge till the cops come. If you ain't from the ghetto, this is undercover. But in 94, shit is real like a motherfucker. Trying to strive 9 to 5 out in the street, there's no rain to shine. Trying to get ends to meet. Fuck the cops, they don't obey the law, and if you ain't catch on by now, I ain't even trying to say no more.